Hey guys, for those of you who don't know me, obviously I'm a senior, hence the Senior Sermon Series. My name is Isaac Wilson, I'm a pastoral major here. I'm also the RA in the dormitories. I speak every week at a Free Methodist church out in Osborne, Kansas. And that's just a little bit of who I am, I guess. And then for me to look at who we are as college kids is such a hard thing to do, to evaluate who you are and what you really mean. And that's something that today we're going to be looking into just a little bit. Last week, you got to hear from one of my really good friends, Chris Powell. And he did the first part of this story, The Prodigal Son Part 1, and he talked about this younger brother. And he talked about all these things, but we were sitting in the dorm room thinking, what in the world can we communicate to you, a group of Christian college kids, a group of kids who are still trying to figure out who they are a little bit? What can we communicate to you that we've learned thus far in our education? And what is God putting on our hearts to talk to you about? And this story of the prodigal son resonated with both of us as we were sitting there thinking, what can we do? But see, it resonated with us for two completely different reasons. See, as Chris Powell talked about, if you were here last week, he told you a little bit about his detour that he came on life. He's 25 years old and going to graduate this year. And he kind of had this moment in his life where he spent a couple of years away from God. And he decided to come back, and he resonates with that younger brother feel. But for me, I resonate with a different character inside the story, a character that Chris didn't get to last week. And for me, I'm going to be talking about him because I've always been this fast tracker, right? Just all the way down. I did my freshman year of college in the same year of my senior year of high school. And I jumped ahead, and I just turned 21 back on April 9th. And I'm going to graduate at 21 years old, and I've already been a pastor in the church for the last 5 months. And what in the world is my life doing at this point? And at times it feels like I get ahead of myself and I fast track so much. But last week, if you weren't here, let me recap what Chris talked about a little bit. He told you about this younger brother who rushed into these riches, right? And then at that moment, he squandered all of his father's wealth, and he wound up in this pig pen. He wound up at the bottom part of his life with nothing left, and then jumps back into chains. And then he finds this father. He goes back to his father, and the father wants to party with him. And see, for me, to think that I'm not a prodigal in my life is ignorant, arrogant, wrong is the answer. It's wrong. There are times in my life where I do fall away. And while sometimes I do resonate with another character in the story, to think that I don't also relate myself to the prodigal son in many ways is so far gone. There are times where I miss it. But see, there are some people who miss it on a large scale for years. But then there's others of us who miss it on a small scale, and it doesn't affect as much. But does it still affect? Well, as we go into the text, we're going to be in Luke chapter 15, and I'm going to start in verse 25 and go to the end of the chapter there. But before we look at this, you have to understand that Jesus is in parable telling mode. Right? He's rattling these things off like crazy. Jesus is in story mode right now. And look at chapter 13, you see the parable of the mustard seed. Then in 14, we see the great banquet hall, and he's still telling these different parables about the kingdom of heaven. Then he talks about the lost coin, the lost sheep, and the lost son in chapter 15 where we are. And then he finishes off in 16 with the shrewd manager and the parable there. But see, there's something different about these parables that are in chapter 15. It's like Jesus tells one of them, and the people don't get it. So then he tells another one, and the people still aren't getting it. And then he comes to the lost son. In every one of these parables, if you will, just glance up your Bible with me for a moment into the parable of the lost sheep. What does he say at the end of that parable? And everyone celebrated. Jump with me to the end of the lost coin, and everyone celebrated. Join with me as we look into the lost son, the last verse there, verse 32, everyone celebrated. God likes to party. Man, that's what Chris was telling us about last week. The Father is throwing parties for the lost. And that's what our God likes to do. He parties with people at 3 a.m. who are prostitutes, who are broken, who are at the bottom of their life, and God likes to party with them. Now, what I'm going to talk about is a character in the story who missed a party. Right? See, he tells us about the lost sheep, and there's no other character in it. It's just the sheep. Then he tells us about the coin, and it's just the coin. But in this story, he adds a character. Jesus specifically adds one person for us to relate to in our lives who doesn't get this party. And this older brother is sitting there thinking, is this party something that I really want to be a part of? Is this something that I really do? And that led me into this question of, have you ever had an incredible experience in your life? And for me, I can remember back to my junior year of high school, whenever I was living off my parents. And I was living off my parents' faith, and I really hadn't in any way developed my own faith. And my junior summer, I went to a Christian camp that I didn't really want to go to, but my parents, being the people they are, forced me into going. And in that time, I experienced God in a brand new way. A completely new way that I'd never done anything like that before. And at that moment, all of a sudden, the realization of what the cross meant for my life, the freedom, the questions of doubt that I've always had in the back of my mind, if just for a moment subsided, and I could actually dwell in the presence of God, and the fire hit me and the cross was real. And man, I was so excited about the gospel, and I was ready to share it with everybody for as long as I possibly could. I don't know if you've ever had a moment like that in your life, but I think that as you realize the cross and what that means, that fire just overcomes you. And so the church gave us this stage after we got back for us to talk about our experience. And so if you guys know, I can talk for a long time. And so for what seemed like for 45 minutes probably, I explained to my parents what happened to me at this Christian camp. My brother was sitting there, my younger brother was sitting there. We were all there. And finally, at the end of this, it seemed like forever, my older brother looked at me. And he looked at me and said, "Nobody wants to listen to you talk. Nobody wants to listen to that." And at that moment, the rain on my parade just swept everything away, and I was shocked, bewildered, confused. The person that I look up to in my life, this older brother that I've always wanted to be, just told me that I had nothing to say to anyone about my experience. And that's not, he explained himself later, and that's not what he meant. But see, it didn't matter to me, because I was already convinced he didn't want to party with me. He didn't want to party with what the gospel was doing. He wanted nothing to do with it. And for me, I was shocked and confused. But see, this is the mindset that we have to go into of reading this text just a little bit. Of that moment whenever something incredible is happening, a party is going on, and something else comes up. Let's read in verse 25 of Luke 15. "Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near to the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of his servants and asked him, 'What is going on?' The servant replied, 'Your brother has come home, and your father has killed the fatted calf because he is back, safe and sound.' The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I've been slaving after you and never once have disobeyed you. Yet you never even gave me a goat so that I could celebrate with my own friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered all of your wealth, he squandered my wealth as well, Father. You killed the fatted calf for him?' 'My son,' the father replies, 'you are always with me, and everything that I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours that was dead is now alive. He was lost and is now found.'" And whenever I read this, one question comes to my mind. Have you ever felt left out? Because I think that's where the brother was. Have you ever felt neglected in your life? Have you ever been so far out of a party that you get upset? Or worse than that, neglected, right? That's worse than just missing something, is feeling neglected in that. And I've had sports seasons where I felt neglected in my life. And those times, they're the worst. Or somebody doesn't send you a text message whenever they're going to the rec and you feel neglected. Or in a relationship, you don't feel like there's equal communication and you feel neglected. Haven't we all felt that way? In some small way, that's what this brother is feeling. "Dad, you couldn't even have sent me a text message?" See, in that time period, his father, all he had to say was, "Servant, go tell your brother we're going to have a party." And he didn't do it. The brother is confused, upset, and neglected. And he heard this music and dancing in verse 25, and he's got to figure out what's going on. And at that moment, I think we can all relate to that. And we all remember the time whenever we were neglected, and we want to know. We want to know what actually happened. So he asks his servant, and his servant tells him, This is for your younger brother. You know, the one that left a couple of years ago. He took half of the property or whatever, and then he squandered it all. Yeah, he's back, and he's got the fatted calf now. And your dad is just pumped, and he's partying away. And then we see what happens. The older brother in verse 27 to 28 goes into something very interesting here. He throws himself a little pity party, doesn't he? I know that none of you have ever thrown a pity party. You've got no idea what this looks like, right? None of us do. You know, I imagine, if you don't know what this looks like, I'm an RA in the dormitories, like I said, and there was a kid who found out that he had job checks on my floor. And in that moment, he starts stomping around. And I imagine it's not like Luke whenever he found out that Leia was his sister, right? And he's not happy about this situation in his life that just came up. And, I mean, this is where the brother is. He's not happy with what's going on. Something isn't working out quite like he thought he was, and he's ready to throw this little pity party. I'm going to throw a temper tantrum. I'm not going into your party, Dad. I'm sitting out here and I'm angry. I'm angry with you and I'm angry with my brother. But see, two things happen because of this. Two things happen because of this pity party. The first thing that we see is the father is robbed of his time. And the father is robbed of his joy. See, the father doesn't want to be spending the time with the older brother right now. He wants to be celebrating. He wants to be partying for the lost. He wants to be celebrating with them for their commitment to him. But he can't, because he has to focus his time and energy on something else. And I imagine this, for those of you who are fathers in the crowd, for some of the professors in here, you know what this is like who've had kids. And for my dad, I remember one time we were watching a movie as a family. And me and my older brother, we started getting into it a little bit, and finally he pulled us out of the movie. And he looks at us and says, "What are you two knuckleheads doing? I don't want to be out here with you. I want to be enjoying the movie with everybody else, but you two can't get along well enough to do it." So he's got this brother who is lost. His son is lost and he's inside. And then he's got this pity party 12-year-old outside who can't be happy for his younger brother outside. Not a good situation, but the father, out of grace, love, and compassion, goes out to the older brother and begins to plead with him. But what's the brother's response to that? Well, how does the brother react in that moment? And we see, he looks at him and says, "I never got a party. Dad, I did everything that I was supposed to do. I'm the perfect child, right? I did everything right. And I never got a party, even with my friends. You don't even have to kill the fatted calf for me. All I want is a goat. And I couldn't even get that." And I remember in my life almost cheering for those moments whenever my older brother would mess up. I don't know if any of you are middle sons and you can understand this for a second with me. But man, I cheered whenever my older brother would come home late. Whenever he would make a mistake. You know why? Because then the perfect son can look that much better whenever he doesn't mess up. Right? So the younger son has already messed up. He did everything wrong. The punishment's coming. Yes, this is perfect. I get to look that much better. I get to look perfect. But that's not what happens. He's confused. The ending is not right. This brother is not being punished for what he did. And he says, did he choose better, Dad? Did he choose the better thing? Maybe I should have left. Maybe in that moment he's thinking, I should have left and squandered everything that you had as well, because then you would have accepted me back. Did the younger brother choose better? And the father, in verse 31 and 32, pauses for a moment, gathers his composure and says, "My son, you missed it. Everything I have is yours." The younger son got the fatted calf, yes, you're right. But the farm is yours. Everything I have, everything that is within my power to give you, it's yours. But you know what he says? There's something else pressing going on right now. Quit looking at yourself for a moment. Step out of the spotlight for a second and realize what's going on in the world around you. Somebody who was dead is now alive. Somebody who was lost is now found. And we have something else pressing to attend to. And that's partying. Because that's what our Father likes to do. That's what our Father is about partying for the lost. Celebration for those who have now found their way back to Him. And so I want to think for a moment, what is this attitude that this brother gets into, and what causes this attitude? Because this brother doesn't have a partying attitude. This older brother, he misses it. And there's 4 things you can see up on the slide there. The first thing is he's feeling left out. See, he's working for the Father. He's been working for the Father the whole time. His kingdom act, he's not seeing enough out of that, and he's feeling left out of the kingdom because the rewards aren't coming his way. The second thing that he did is he pouted. Now, I don't know, we can apply this to MCC right now. I don't know if you've ever pouted at your time at MCC. I deserve more than what MCC offers me. The facilities here aren't that good. I deserve more. And we start throwing this pity party. And we start pouting. No, we don't do that. The third thing that this brother did was he could not forgive. See, he asked the right question. He said, "Isn't this the son that squandered all that you had? Isn't the son that did this?" But instead of allowing the Father to answer, he goes on and self-justifies himself out of jealousy. I did the right thing. I did it. I was right. This son was wrong. Why is he not being punished? He could not forgive. And the fourth thing is he was in it for himself. The me, me, me attitude. Where's my reward? And then, beyond that, the insult that says, I don't want to be a part of your party, Dad. Give me a goat and I'll go party with my friends. I can party better than you can, Dad. Can I just have a goat? That's all I need. And we'll have a blast. We'll have a good time. So what's your story here? Which one are you? Are you like Chris Powell talked about last week, and you're looking around thinking, man, life isn't working out for me. I'm in this pig pen. I'm at the bottom of the bottom, and I'm broken, and I need healing, and I'm ready for it. I'm ready to come back to the Father. Or were you the fast tracker? Were you the person who was so focused on being the perfect example, if by no other means than in your own mind, being perfect in front of everybody else? And you look for every single reason that you could possibly find to not party for somebody else in their life. The great news is today is Christ is for you. Whether you're the younger brother, whether you're the older brother, Christ is for you. Easter was just a couple weeks back, and that's what it's about. See, the fatted calf came for the Gentiles, came for all of us. And he's the gift that allows us to go into the Father's party. See, the Father wants us there. He sent Christ for us to go party with Him. Are you ready to party? Because at MCC, the professors here are teaching you how to party with God. The dorms are teaching you how to party with God. The groups on campus are teaching you how to party with God. Your small group leaders are teaching you how to party with God. That's what it's about here. And if you're missing the party, then maybe pull your head out of the books and stop just looking for the A. And maybe for a moment you'll see the party that's going on here at MCC. Maybe if you just came here for sports, maybe then you'll be able to see the party that's going on here at MCC. You know, for the professors, if you're just coming here to teach your class and then go home, maybe you're missing the party. I applaud those professors who have gotten involved in intramurals and have taken kids out to coffee and truly invested into the party that's going on here at MCC. And students, if you were like me and you got caught up, job check sucks, intramurals aren't done well, curfew sucks, going to dorm devos that are forced sucks. The integrity contract sucks. If everything here is focused on that, maybe you're missing the party that's going on here. And as a person who has done that, and has looked, and it took me to my senior year to find out that this is a party at MCC. Come be a part of it. Don't miss the party. Don't miss the party.